Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Vickie's Country Home. I'm so glad you're back. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to make some kimchi, and Brian loves it. I've been experimenting with fermenting other vegetables, so it's time to try kimchi. And I'm kind of going to take my information from several sources. One of them is this book, Real Food Fermentation. And I'm using this kind of as a guideline, but I am also changing it out. And a lot of that is the vegetables and the spices. So I'm doing what I think we're going to like. If this is not how you make it, that's great. This is what I'm going to do. So, and I'm going to call it kimchi, but somebody will probably disagree. That's okay. It's all good. I'm also looking at a method that Rain Country Homestead uses. And Heidi makes her own fruit fermentation starter, and she uses that. And she says it speeds up the process. Now my house is very warm right now. We're in the middle of a heat wave. We usually have one a summer, sometimes two. And so it's probably 80 degrees in my house, so I'm guessing this is going to move pretty quickly. So I'm going to combine some of the methods from this book and the ingredients and some from her method, but I'm also going to just throw in some other things, so we'll see where it goes. So let's get started. All right, what I have here is I have a head of Napa cabbage. And this is organic, and you want to use organic if at all possible. So I've got a head of bok choy, a bunch of green onions, a carrot, some ginger root, garlic, red pepper flakes, cayenne, granulated garlic, and this is my fermentation starter that I made using Heidi's method for blackberry fermentation starter. So I'm going to get to cutting up these vegetables, washing them thoroughly, cutting them up, and then I'll show you what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to start out cutting up the Napa cabbage. This thing was a little over 3.5 pounds, and according to the recipes I've seen, normally you have 2 pounds of vegetables per quart jar. So I'm not only going to add this and the other vegetables, I'm going to use larger jars just because, first of all, I want to make some in this beautiful Kilner jar that I got when I was in Napa with the glass lid. So that's going to be one. And then depending on how much I have, I'll either do a quart or a half gallon. We'll just have to see. So the first thing I did is I cut this in quarters lengthwise. And I don't know that it tells you to do that, but I'm going to cut out most of the core. I'm not going to worry if I get all of it, but I'll cut most of it. And again, I'm following instructions. This is what it says to do, and I'm just going to slice this Napa cabbage. And these are probably 1/2 inch. I don't know. And I did remove a couple of the outer leaves that just didn't look that great. So I'm going to cut up the rest of the cabbage, and then we'll get on to the next vegetables. Now for the bok choy, it says to cut it in 1-inch squares. I'm not going to go to that much detail, but I am just cutting it into slices and then cutting that about 1 inch. So I'm not being real exact. It doesn't matter. It's going to ferment and soft and you're not even going to be able to tell for the most part. So I'm going to get the rest of this chopped up. Then we will go on to the next ingredient. All right, for the carrot, some people choose to not peel it. I am, so that's just the way I'm going to do it. And I think I want to make these smaller size slices, so I think what I will do is maybe split these in maybe halves. And then I'm just going to cut kind of thin slices. Let me get this done up and then we'll get to the next. Okay, for the green onion, I'm just going to clean them up, take off the ends. And I'm just going to slice them, oh, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch. So I've cut off a knob of ginger. The recipe in the book calls for 1/2 inch per quart, and I like a lot of ginger, so I'm probably going to add more than that. And you peel it first, and again, for those who have never done this, just get a spoon. This works. This is the best way I know of to peel ginger. It's so much easier. It's an odd shape, and by doing this, the peel comes right off. And it's actually very little waste. And one of the reasons I'm doing this, first because Brian likes it, but secondly, fermented foods are really good for your gut. They've got a lot of good probiotics. And so I'm trying to fit some more of them into our diet. So this is one way to do it. Now for this ginger, what I plan, the book says you can put it in your food processor along with the garlic and just swirl it all up. I think it's going to be more trouble to get my food processor out than it is to just chop it, so I'm just going to chop it really fine. Nothing fancy. So I'm going to do that to the rest of the ginger and we'll come back. Alright, I've got a whole head of garlic here, peeled, and I'm just going to use a garlic press because I don't really care how it looks. This is going to go inside the jar, and if I had put it through the food processor, it would be even just kind of mush. So this way maybe you get a little bit of texture. And I decided, and I don't care if those get mixed together, that's all the garlic I've got. And I decided I have these peppers. I have a small bowl of peppers that I saved from the grasshoppers. So I think I'm going to put in 2 little bitty Fresno chilies and a small jalapeno too. Just because Brian likes it hot, and so you're already adding the red pepper flakes and maybe some cayenne. So this will just give a little more pepper taste. Again, this may not be 100% traditional. This is the way I'm doing it. So I'm going to get all these garlic smashed up, and then I'm going to, I think I'm going to take the seeds out and just chop these peppers up really fine. So I'll bring you back when that's all done. Okay, now with traditional kimchi, you would make a brine. You would have this not in a metal bowl probably, and you would soak all these vegetables in the brine for hours or overnight. I'm going to try Rain Country's method, which doesn't do that. But what I need to do first is get all of these mixed together so that I can pack them in the jars. Which is going to take me a few minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done and we'll come back. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I have the garlic, ginger, and the jalapeno and Fresno chilies in this bowl. And I've just mixed those all well together. Now what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to add maybe maybe 2 teaspoons of granulated garlic because I used a whole head. Yeah, I think I'll do a little more. There's never too much garlic, in my opinion. Now I've got the red pepper flakes, and normally you would use about a tablespoon a quart, or you could use, the recipe in the book says you can use up to half of a cup in a quart. I don't think I want to go that much. And Heidi's recipe calls for a tablespoon of cayenne powder. Well, don't think I'm going to go there. I think I'm going to do maybe 2 teaspoons for all of this. This is going to be pretty spicy anyway. But hopefully Shayna and I will be able to eat it too. Because I don't know if you can see, that's a whole lot of pepper in there. And I did look for Korean red pepper. I think it's a paste. But my grocery didn't have it, so this is the substitute, is using the red pepper flakes. So that's all blended together. I'm going to add a tiny bit of water. Need to make sure it's filtered or mostly just non-chlorinated. That was probably a 1/4 cup of water, just kind of to make it like a paste. And if I had put this through the food processor, it would have been more like a paste. But again, it's more trouble to get that out and then clean it than it is to do it this way. And speaking of that, now I remember why I don't use a garlic press. They're more trouble than they're worth. I could have chopped all that garlic without the mess and been done just as fast or faster. Alright, so now we are ready to assemble, I believe. So what we're going to do, and again, I'm not using a quart jar. I'm using this one. I believe it was 54 grams, I think. I'm not sure. But I think it's going to make a beautiful jar for the kimchi. And again, these are made in the UK. Well, I think they're actually made in China, but it's a UK company. And my canning funnel barely sits on this. But it's so pretty, and it has this glass, it's a canning jar, but it has a glass lid with a gasket. So because I'm using this method, instead of mixing this all up with the brine and then mixing that brine, mixing all the spices into the vegetables, I'm just going to put it down in layers. So I'll just put some in, and you need to smash this down really well, which I will do better as we go. Alright, and I think I'm going to start packing in this half-gallon jar too. And again, make sure you have clean hands. That's kind of a given. This is called a pickle packer. Let me see if you can see that. And you're going to really smash this down in there. Now something I didn't put in yet is the salt, and I think I'm going to put that on top before I add the starter and the water, because it will filter down and we're going to be shaking these up well. Alright, these jars are almost full and they are packed very tight, which is very important. So what I'm going to do now is it calls for 1 tablespoon of sugar per quart. These are bigger than a quart, so the half gallon I'm going to do 2. And the Kilner jar, I don't know, little over a tablespoon and a half. So since I'm using the fermentation starter, I'm going to use a teaspoon per quart. Instead, I'm going to use sea salt. So I'm going to use 1 teaspoon per quart, which would be 2 for the half gallon. And about a little over 1.5 teaspoons for the Kilner jar. And then I've got what's left of the garlic pepper mix, and I'm going to put some of that right on top. And just to keep it from being a big mess, I'll put a few leaves on top. And then I'm going to pack this down again. And you're looking for 1-inch headspace. So this one is right about there. And so is this one. All right, now I'm going to get some water and get these filled up. Before I get the water, I'm going to get my starter out. And I already popped the lid so it had a nice pop, and it is still fizzy. So again, for the ½ gallon, we're doubling this. So instead of a 1/4 cup, I'm going to use a half. And it's nice and fizzy. So we'll put this in before we put the water in. And I've got this packed pretty tight. It's having a hard time going down. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to put not quite so much, maybe 2/3 of a cup. I'm sorry, 1/3 of a cup. Maybe slightly more than that. And again, this is the fermentation starter from Heidi at Rain Country. And this one is made with blackberries, and she has a video on that, and I think I did a video on it when I made it. Alright, now I'm going to get some water, and I will make sure that these have water up to the 1-inch mark. So I'll bring you back when I've got that done. Alright, these are mostly full, and just like in canning, I have been debubbling to make sure that I'm getting as much air that might be trapped as possible. And I'm using this plastic spoon. You could use a wooden spoon. But I just want to make sure that if there's any air bubbles trapped, that it has a chance to come to the surface. I'm going to pack it down once more for good measure. And you can see just adding those ingredients has really helped these to pack down more. I could probably put a touch more vegetables, but you know what? I think I'm just going to add the water. So this one, not quite to the rim, and that one just a little more. So altogether, I've used not quite 1.5 pints of filtered water. Again, it's very important when you're doing any kind of fermenting, do not use any chlorinated water. You need to filter it, whatever method you have for getting rid of that chlorine. So now, I'm going to put this beautiful glass lid on this jar. I love this. My sister went and they had one more of each size. So she went and bought them for me last week. I'm going to shake it up and look for any air bubbles, and I see a few. So I want to get those out. And that went down even more. Shake it and try and get any more that's trapped, but I think I'm good. So isn't that beautiful? Now I'm going to set that aside, get this one packed down just a little more. I don't think I can use that. It's going to overflow. Alright, now I'm going to take these and loosen the lids slightly because these are going to produce gases and you need a way for those gases to escape or you would have kind of an explosion, which wouldn't be good. So I'm now going to put these on a towel on the countertop and keep a close eye on them. Heidi says hers anywhere from 1 to 3 days. And she has cool temperatures in her house. Like I said, it's pretty warm here right now. So I'm thinking it could accelerate pretty quickly. So I'll keep an eye on it and we'll see what this looks like. Alright, it has been, I guess, 3 days. It was extremely bubbly since day 1. But Brian didn't care for it being quite so crunchy, so we let this go, and this is the 3rd day, and he gave his thumbs up today. It's nice and bubbly. It's the way he likes it. So now I'm gonna clean these jars up from the little bit of overflow because they were very bubbly. That's why the towel is there, because they did leak some out of the top. I'm going to clean these up, put them in the refrigerator, and I think he wants to make some Korean ribs or something to go with it. So that may be another video. But it looks like this is a success. He likes it, and it tastes really good, very spicy, but again, he likes it that way. So I hope you learned something. I know I did. And I thank you for watching Vickie's Country Home. Hope you come back again. Hope you give me thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you're not already. And hit the little notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. So, God bless, and we will talk again soon.